Hello everyone, and welcome to AmeriCorps VISTA. We are extremely excited to be with you today as you start your first day of a full year of service, and we're really glad to have you participating in this webinar that we call Launching Your VISTA Service. My name is Eric Powell.
Hey, good afternoon, folks. My name is Barbara Reynolds. Eric and I are coming to you from two different locations today. Eric is at our VISTA headquarters in Washington, D.C., and I am joining you today from a VISTA training in Phoenix, Arizona. So lots of good stuff coming to you guys from different parts of the country. On the webinar as well, you'll see our colleagues in VISTA, Charles and Melissa, as well as our friends at LSI, Steve and Kim, who will be helping out with some of the technical issues or technical needs during today's presentation. Charles and Melissa will be working in the chat and the Q&A and be able to answer questions for you there. So now that you know a little bit about who we are, who the VISTA folks are and the LSI folks are, and where we're located today, we want to just get a little bit of a visual sense of where you're serving. Let's use the annotation tool in Adobe Connect to get a better visual. First, we're going to give you the instructions on how to use the tool, and then we'll turn it on so you can go ahead and put yourself on the map. To do that, first you're going to select the square icon on the left side of your screen. That's going to activate the annotation toolbar. Once the toolbar is open, you're going to select the arrow next to the square so that you can expand the shape options. You should see that on the screen in front of you now. To locate yourself on the map of the U.S., please select the X, which is, as you can see on the slide, to the far right side of the annotation toolbar. Please just click on the X once lightly and then just touch wherever you are in the U.S. Please don't hold on to the X and drag it across the country. That'll put you all over the map. You'll be all over the place, and you'll be covering up other people's marks. So if you're not able to use the annotation tool because you're on a phone or on a tablet, please just take a moment now to type where you're serving, the city and state where you're serving, in the chat panel. So let's go ahead and get that annotation going and see where folks are. Seeing lots of folks typing in the chat. Great. Albuquerque, Bangor, Nashville. Oh, X is going up all over the place. Great. Thank you. Looks like some folks in Arizona. Hey, this is in Arizona. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much for doing that. You guys can see, I mean, keep it coming. If you haven't put your note on the chat or on the map, please do so. It's wonderful to see all the different folks around the country. As you can see, we have members serving really almost everywhere. Looking at the map, a little bit of the north central could be folks are calling in there and have typed in the chat where they are. We also have VISTA members serving in U.S. territories and tribal communities. So with everyone who's on today, there's about 200 of us. It's great to see where you guys are located around the country. Thank you so much for doing that. As you look at the map and see where other VISTAs are located, please remember that you can connect with each other, certainly today, as you're doing in the chat box. You can also, once we're finished with our webinar today, you can connect with each other through the VISTA campus. There's a map feature on the campus as well as discussion forums. So if that's something you haven't yet noted, definitely take a look.
Before we dive deep into the essence of the webinar, it helps to get a feel for where we're going and what's coming next. So we're going to go over the objectives for today. In this webinar, we'll explain and describe VISTA's mission and the VISTA program. Some of it you already know, some of it will be new. We'll review a few of VISTA's recent accomplishments that may be surprising and exciting. We're going to identify people and resources that can support you now and throughout your year of service. We'll highlight action items that need your attention today and in the coming few days. And at the end, we will administer the oath of service to you. With that, I'll turn it over to Barbara to get started with the first objective.
Great. Thank you so much, Eric. So I get to kick off with an official welcome to AmeriCorps VISTA. As you guys know, you're about to join a national program with a very rich history of service. Right now, there are about 200 VISTA members beginning their service with you today at this very moment. Around the country, we have about 5,000 VISTA members who we're serving. So the map we just looked at with the array of members of folks on the call today, we have thousands of VISTAs around the country serving in rural and urban areas, as I said, in all 50 states, as well as our territories and some tribal nations. VISTA started as Volunteers in Service to America, and the program has been supporting the charge towards economic equity for more than 50 years. VISTA's strength really comes from the talent, motivation, and energy of you, of our AmeriCorps VISTA members, which officially will include you a little bit later on once we administer the oath. So again, I just want to thank you for joining VISTA. Thank you for stepping up to share your skills and your passion to serve in our communities around the country. It really is an honor for me to welcome you on behalf of the VISTA program, and I hope that you can hear in our voices how excited Eric and I both are to welcome you and how much support you have from us as well as your fellow VISTA members. So we're going to take a look at a few milestones in VISTA's history that have led us all to this moment.
The VISTA program was born out of the Civil Rights Movement and the War on Poverty in the mid-1960s, and social equity and economic opportunity remain our mission. Our first volunteers were assigned in 1965 to Appalachia, Hartford, Connecticut, and the camps of migrant farm workers in California. President Lyndon Johnson, whom you can see in this photo, said to those first few VISTAs, "The initials of your organization spell VISTA. It is an appropriate name, for you will be opening up new vistas of hope for the poor, achievement for yourself, and greatness for your nation."
Fast forward about 30 years to 1993, and VISTA joined AmeriCorps, becoming part of a network of national service programs of the Corporation for National and Community Service, or CNCS. You may have heard of some of our other grantees and partners, including Habitat for Humanity, City Year, and Teach for America. That's in addition to the programs that CNCS manages directly, which fall under the name Senior Corps and AmeriCorps. And within AmeriCorps, there are three different streams or types of programs. First, there's AmeriCorps NCCC, or the National Civilian Community Corps. There's AmeriCorps State and National. And of course, there is All of Us, which is AmeriCorps VISTA. Today, you're joining the ranks of over 220,000 VISTAs who have served since the program began. And VISTA alumni have gone on to make significant contributions in many ways beyond their service, including VISTAs have served in the U.S. Congress in both the Senate and the House of Representatives. VISTAs have led chambers of commerce in cities around the country. They have founded and led nonprofit organizations of all different types. They've hosted programs on NPR and even written a series of books called A Song of Fire and Ice, which some of you may know as the source materials for the television series Game of Thrones. So that's just a few examples of some of the great contributions VISTAs have made after they served.
We know that the VISTA program is committed to economic equity, but if someone was to ask you specifically, what is VISTA's mission? How would you explain it? What really makes VISTA unique in the federal government? We'll start with this, which is our elevator speech. The VISTA program strengthens organizations that alleviate poverty through the mobilization of volunteers and resources. But let's talk a minute about organizations that seek the support of the VISTA program. Many nonprofits are under-resourced and understaffed, particularly when you consider their mission. They're staffed by innovative, hardworking people who really work to make things happen with very few resources. Often, organizations turn to AmeriCorps VISTA for assistance in strengthening their infrastructure, developing processes, or generating resources. Because after all, if they already had everything in place, they wouldn't need you as a VISTA. The role of the VISTA member really is to support the organization's mission by providing solutions that enhance efficiency and build capacity to raise money, develop systems, recruit volunteers, and create lasting sustainable change. So, by serving at a sponsoring organization, You are essential to VISTA's mission of strengthening organizations. And in addition to our mission, here are 4 principles that underpin the VISTA program. First is ending poverty. Every VISTA project and every VISTA member aims to end or alleviate poverty one person, one family, or one block at a time. Empowering communities. In contrast to parachuting in and doing good things for people, VISTA members live among and involve community members in planning and carrying out the project. This is often facilitated by your sponsor, but strengthening and improving the community is our long-term goal through learning about values and beliefs and applying good community development principles. Creating sustainable solutions. Whatever you develop or create, and we hope that you develop and create many, many things and resources, it could be a process, a system, or a variety of resources, you will develop them in such a way that people will be able to use them once you're gone, and they'll be sustainable in the organization. In building capacity, all VISTA members aim to either increase the size of a project, increase the number of people served, improve the project's efficiency, or improve the project's impact on the community. That is how we measure capacity. So speaking of capacity, let's spend a moment going over capacity building and what that actually looks like.
In the VISTA mission and program tutorial you completed, hopefully you've had a chance to complete that, you learned that your VISTA service should focus on building the capacity of your organization and not focus on performing direct service. This is a unique aspect of the VISTA program which sets us apart from all of the other AmeriCorps programs. Quickly, capacity building in essence is about helping your organization do more with what they have so they can serve more people or operate more efficiently. Direct service, as the name implies, is about providing tangible direct assistance to those who need it. So to make sure you understand and have a good feel for what we're talking about, we're going to play a quick round of this or that to explore the differences between capacity building and direct service. For this activity, we again will be using the annotation tool, and the annotation tool will display as soon as we're ready for you to use it. So Eric and I are going to take turns reading a service activity out loud, and we're going to ask you to use your annotation tool to indicate an X under which category you think this service belongs. So an X under capacity building or an X under direct service. Again, if you're on a phone or a tablet, the annotation function won't work, but you can certainly type into the chat panel, yes, capacity building, yes, direct service, or no. That should be totally fine. All right, so first up, what do we have, Eric?
We're going to start with recruiting volunteers to build houses. Do you think this is capacity building or direct service? As you can see on the screen, people are already indicating with their X. Again, try to keep them small so we can see the responses coming, but it looks like maybe 2/3 of people so far are saying capacity building, and about 1/3 are saying recruiting volunteers to build houses is direct service. It's a good array of answers, and I think by now we'll go ahead and see which side is correct. The answer is capacity building. And you might ask why, but it's capacity building because you are not directly building the house. That would be direct service. In this case, you are developing capacity by recruiting volunteers who will then be able to do the construction work as well as engage with the organization in several other ways.
All right, so next up, we have delivering meals to seniors, or it could be people with disabilities, in their homes. Would this be a direct service activity or a capacity building activity? I see some folks typing in, lots of X's, some checks, some good marks, lots of directs in the chat box. Great, thank you. Yep, let's go ahead and go to the answer slide. And as you all said, I think this is 100%. The correct answer is direct service, of course, because in this example, you, the VISTA, would actually be picking up the food and delivering it to people, of course. So providing the direct service to those folks in their homes. By contrast, capacity building activities could be working to improve a program that delivers meals to seniors. It could mean putting together policies and procedures, developing partnerships to help with food delivery, recruiting volunteers, etc.
Just a couple more. The next one is teaching a financial literacy course. In this case, it's teaching a financial literacy course to low-income individuals. Do you think it's capacity building or direct service? And I see some people are legally cheating by getting close to the line. They're pretty much 50% correct and 50% incorrect. But it's about a 50-50 split. So we'll go ahead and see what the survey says. The answer is direct service. This specific example involves hands-on educating individuals. There are some capacity building activities that a VISTA member would do that would include things like developing the curriculum for the financial literacy course or connecting with other organizations who can refer clients to take the course. Another possibility is identifying financial literacy experts to advise the curriculum development. But in this case, the answer is this was direct service. Barbara, what's next?
All right. So next up, we have organizing a fundraiser. What say you, good people? Is this capacity building or direct service? All right. I see a couple of giant X's under capacity building. All right. Lots of folks writing CD, CAP, capacity building in the chat box. A couple of folks have ventured over to the direct service side. Okay. All right. Lots of good answers. Thank you very much. So we will move on to the answer, and that is capacity building. As many folks said, the correct response here is this is a capacity building activity because raising resources or raising funds, the act itself is building capacity. The money raised helps build the resources of the organization or the program so that it can do its work, it can do more work. So we have one more exercise for you. Eric, what is it?
The next final one is setting up partnerships in the community. Now hopefully most people get this one right. It could be a little tricky, but do you think setting up partnerships in the community is building capacity or directly serving people? So far, everyone except for maybe 2 people are skewed to the left for capacity building. Few people on direct service. See a sad face. We want to turn that sad face into a happy face because you're soon going to be a VISTA after this webinar. But we'll go ahead and see what the final answer is. Where's the check going to go? Capacity building. And you are all almost correct. Congratulations, because in this case, you're striving to link the community with specific organizations, people, and funds, as well as eliminate poverty and make a positive difference. In this case, you're building capacity by helping community members find new ways to get things done, and you're helping connect them to new partners to help them do it. So thank you for this activity. You all did great. Thanks for participating. We're going to go ahead and move on.
Great. Thank you, Eric. So we're going to shift gears a bit now and take a look at what you'll be doing in your individual VISTA project and how it connects and how you connect to the mission of the VISTA program. If you believe that we have a responsibility to bring an end to poverty, and if you're committed to working with your community to do that, then you're definitely in the right place.
We'd like to reflect for a moment on the key principles of the VISTA program. These 4 principles really do guide the community development for us because community work requires coordination, even collaboration, in working together towards long-range goals. As you think about these principles that we've been talking about today, which one resonates with you? So we'll now invite you to use the chat panel that you've been using earlier today to share which of these which of these principles resonates with you, and feel free to, in a couple of words, say why it resonates with you. You might say ending poverty resonates with you because before the session started, many of you said that you joined VISTA because you really wanted to help people move out of poverty and make a positive difference in your communities. I see people are mentioning empowering community, perhaps because it's a passion of yours as you're working through community stakeholders to identify needs and putting those needs into action. I saw a couple of responses with capacity building because for a lot of people that's at the heart of who you are and what you do. Or it could be sustainability, something that really drew you to your VISTA position because you have an eye for processes and developing them in such a way that they can be used once you've left. So taking a look at a couple of the responses, a few people said empowering the community because they can be sustainable by themselves, which is of course a major goal of the VISTA program. Building capacity, creating sustainable solutions because environmental policy is my passion. That's great. And Ellen mentions creating sustainable solutions so communities can help themselves after the alliances and partnerships are formed and established. And I'll read two more and then we can go ahead and move on. Anicia mentions ending poverty. That's of course a major focus of the VISTA program. It's the only program, as Barbara mentioned, in AmeriCorps that's 100% devoted to eliminating poverty. And finally, Nicholas mentions creating sustainable solutions because I believe we have a drug epidemic that isn't being addressed with a sustainable solution. So there is no wrong answer. And the good thing is that all of these are critical and important, and all of them are useful. Hopefully, as you look at what you'll be doing as a VISTA, especially in your VISTA assignment description, you'll be able to pinpoint activities that touch on some or all of these key principles. And you'll be able to talk about how to sustain the work that you're doing by building capacity, empowering communities, and how these efforts contribute to ending poverty. As you may know or may have guessed at your site today, progress sometimes in this type of work can be slow and incremental, but it is important to know that our work is not just about fixing stuff. It's really about sharing perspectives, skills, and experiences. The results of your work as a VISTA member may not be immediately apparent, and it also may not happen overnight, which at times can be very frustrating. But once you step back, you'll be able to see the larger changes that have resulted from the great work that you've done.
Let's focus now on your specific role or what you'll be doing as a VISTA. And the best way to do that is by reviewing your VISTA assignment description or your VAD. As Eric and I mentioned last week, the VAD is really the crucial tool for you to use hopefully today right at your service site, and it will be crucial throughout your year. So we're going to spend a little bit of time breaking it down. Each VISTA in the country, so all of those X's we saw on the map, every one of you has a VAD. And it was created by your VISTA project likely before you arrived. You may have received your VAD during your interview and selection process with your site, or perhaps you just got a copy of your VISTA assignment description today when you came on site. If you have not received it yet, if you haven't been able to put your hands on your VAD, you can also download it from your My AmeriCorps account. So just want to make sure that you know that again. All VADs will include the following three elements: a project goal, objectives, and member activities. The project goal is related to or will be identical to the overall goal of your VISTA project. The objectives will describe what you will achieve by the end of your service year. They are a bridge between the project goal and the specific member activities that are coming up next. The member activities specify what you will be doing this year. Those activities together should add up to the objectives, and all of the objectives should add up to that project goal. So you can just see on the screen in front of you how these three elements of the VAD are linked. As I noted, each of you has your own VAD, and so it doesn't matter how many, if you're serving with multiple VISTAs at your project, each of you will have your own. Also, it doesn't matter if there have been VISTAs who served before you at your project. You should still have an updated and current VAD that is specific to you. Because the VISTA assignment description really is your work plan for the year, again, we want to strongly recommend that you focus on it with your supervisor right away. If you have not already met with your supervisor about your VAD, then please put that at the top of your list of things to do this week. And as Eric and I said, we really hope that you'll use the VAD now from the beginning and throughout your year of service. There is a worksheet for the VISTA assignment description that's part of your early service coursework on the Starting VISTA page of the campus. This worksheet can help you tease apart the various elements of your VAD. It gives a nice framework for you and your supervisor to use to discuss your tasks and what is expected of you, really step by step. It's a great idea to download the worksheet if you haven't already and start filling it out so you're well prepared to discuss the VAD with your supervisor. Again, if you don't already have a meeting set up to do this, please do. The VAD can be a great conversation starter and really help kick things off for this year.
As Barbara mentioned, the VAD really sets the framework for your work, so we'd really like to hear from you again specifically about the VAD. Based on what you know about your VAD, what will you be doing as a VISTA member? What steps, tasks, or activities will you be doing to help eradicate poverty, build capacity in your community, and in your organization? Again, for this activity, use the chat panel and post your responses now so that others can see and learn. This might be a couple of words, or you might have a brief sentence about what you're doing. Obviously, you don't have to post your entire VISTA assignment description contents. But I do see, let me see, Lauren is doing neighborhood revitalization. That's a big word that I should learn how to pronounce. Therese is doing research and grant writing. We know a lot of VISTAs do research and grant writing to provide additional funds to the organization to help build their capacity more. Samantha said food sovereignty for the Swinomish tribe. Jennifer's doing veteran services. Gabrielle, quality improvement. Building green space capacity and connecting underserved communities, says Brittany. And Tyler is empowering disadvantaged women. And I can't read the rest of it because it's scrolling really quickly. But keep those coming because these are really, really critical tasks that not just help you understand what you're doing, but also working with your supervisor to determine how to do that. And I will say, it is truly remarkable to hear the wide variety of responses that you are posting now, and also how much VISTA members do. As you get started in your VISTA service, you will be focusing a lot on the what, specifically in terms of the what you'll be doing for your service. So with that activity, we know that there was a lot of good content mentioned. It's still coming in, but we do want to take a quick second to ask, what if? What if you plan a community meeting? If you happen to bring people together around a common issue, what's the next step and what's the ultimate goal?
What if you write grants? How will writing a grant actually make a difference in your community?
What if you're supposed to be recruiting volunteers? Why specifically is it important to have other people assisting with the project?
What if you write a lesson plan? What purpose does this lesson plan achieve, and how will it impact others within your community?
So the big question we ask is, what if? And we ask this because we really want you to reflect on why. Think about this question in your service activities and when reviewing your VAD, as well as when talking with your supervisor. It takes a lot of effort and energy, but also a lot of positive focus to take time to think about the reason behind your activities and the purpose of the things that you're doing, because it'll help you create the intended impact of your VISTA service.
The impact you make this year will in many ways depend on you, on your leadership, and on your dedication to your service site. It'll also depend on your community, your specific VISTA project, and really a lot of times on good luck. Think about the what if when answering this next question. What impact do you hope to make as a VISTA member? And by impact, we mean what will be the end result rather than what will your particular activities look like. What will happen as a result of your success? Please think about this overarching goal as you go into your year of service. The work isn't always immediately satisfying, but it is always very important. Keeping the impact in mind will help you get through tough times when you feel you may not be making a difference. All right, let's see, there's some questions coming in or some answers coming into the chat about the end result of the overall difference. Thank you for those. Yep. Your organization will understand how to reach community members better, reach more people. Yep, get more housing for folks. Great, thank you for those. Please keep them coming. I mean, that is this burning question is really something that Eric and I are sharing with you today, and we hope that it'll stick in your mind and it'll be something that you come back to like a touchstone. Great, lots of good answers going in the chat box. Please keep those coming. The notes that you guys are sharing are inspiring, and as I said, hopefully we'll be able to stay in the front of your mind to inspire you as you move through your VISTA year. So as I mentioned a few moments ago, and as you know, you're part of a national program. So we're going to talk just a little bit, take a look at some of the things that VISTA members collectively have accomplished recently. So you'll have a sense of how your accomplishments at your projects will add up to the bigger picture. So in the last year, you can see on the slide that VISTAs have raised over $200 million in cash and in-kind donations for their sponsoring organizations. That's more than twice what the U.S. Congress actually gives VISTA for the annual budget to run the entire program. So that's amazing contribution from VISTA members. VISTAs also have recruited, trained, and assigned about 800,000 community volunteers, and collectively those volunteers served more than 8 million hours. VISTA members have made it possible for their sites and their sponsors to serve 3 million children living in poverty in after-school programs, tutoring, and assistance in food security. Programs supported by VISTA members have served 140,000 veterans and military families. And in a single year, about 8,500 VISTA members built the capacity of more than 4,500 nonprofits and public agencies. And about 70% of those agencies have been in the VISTA's own hometowns. So people have been serving where they're from, which I think is always a really powerful experience. And again, since our VISTA program was created in 1965, almost 250,000 VISTAs have served in different communities around the country. These are just some of the really remarkable and noteworthy collective impacts that VISTA members have made over the years. And I hope that it gives you a good sense of how members like you, how you will have impact now and as you move through your service term.
Thanks, Barbara. We've covered a lot so far, but before we continue, we want to do a quick review just to summarize what we've covered. So we started by looking at how VISTA relates to other national service programs. Then we transitioned into the VISTA mission, its key principles, and we discussed how they relate to your VISTA assignment description at your site. And finally, we shared with you some of the impact that VISTA members have had in the past year so that you get an idea of the impact that you will be making this year in your VISTA service. So now we're going to take a shift to looking at your rights and responsibilities as a VISTA member and some sources of ongoing support for you during your year of service. You already by now should have and are required to take the VISTA Civil Rights and Responsibilities course on the VISTA campus. So we're going to talk about some important issues that you learned, because the VISTA program does take the issues of discrimination and harassment very seriously, and we want to make sure that you're all aware of what your rights are as well as your responsibilities. As you learned, discrimination is when receiving treatment that is different because of a difference in sex, race, or other protected class. Harassment is behavior that is severe or pervasive and creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment. If you believe that you have experienced or witnessed discrimination or harassment, and if you feel safe and comfortable doing so, here are the steps that you should take. Approach and talk directly to the person you suspect of engaging in harassing or discriminating behavior. If that doesn't work, or if you don't feel safe and comfortable doing so, then you should next contact your direct VISTA supervisor. If for whatever reason you cannot go to your supervisor, or if you do and the matter is not resolved to your satisfaction, then you should contact your CNCS state office. And finally, as you can see on the screen, you do have direct contact, if you need it, with the CNCS Equal Opportunity Program, or EOP. Our civil rights do go hand in hand with responsibilities, so while you have the right to a service experience that is free from harassment and discrimination, you also have the responsibility not to subject anyone to harassment or discrimination. So, as we all do in life, in work, in everything we do, just please be conscious of how your words and actions might be perceived by others, whether fellow VISTA members, staff at your site, or people in the community. And as a reminder, the contact information that you see on this slide is included for the handout for this session. You will also find it in the VISTA Member Handbook located on the VISTA campus. Also, as you know, AmeriCorps VISTA is a federal program, and like anything supported by taxpayer funds, we need to ensure that the program is well run, doing what it's supposed to, and spending money wisely. Like all federal agencies, CNCS has an Inspector General whose office is responsible for preventing and detecting waste, fraud, and abuse. Most VISTA sponsors are very familiar with the rules and do a good job of following them, but sometimes things can get off track, so there's a few red flags that you should be aware of. If at any point you are being asked to take over the work of a staff person, let's say someone who is out on extended leave and you're asked to basically do their work, that is considered replacing staff and it is not allowed. Or, if most of what you're doing is administrative support for someone else, that's also not appropriate work for a VISTA member, because you should be focusing on the things outlined in your VAD, which ties directly to the overall project plan that was approved by CNCS. And finally, as we've been talking about throughout this presentation, the majority of your work should be building capacity, not direct service. From your coursework and today's activities, you now have a good idea how to distinguish the two, so please be sure that you're focusing on capacity building. And again, if you do feel that you're being asked to do anything that's not appropriate for a VISTA member, first talk about it with your supervisor, try to clarify, get some understanding. From there, you can always contact your CNCS state office. And then if the issue is not resolved, or if you want to remain anonymous, you can contact the CNCS Office of Inspector General. And as a reminder, this is one of your responsibilities to say something if you see something.
So we're going to shift gears now. We've talked about some of the broader aspects of your role as a VISTA and how to look at your VISTA assignment description. For a couple minutes, I'm just going to cover two very specific tasks, things for you to do this week, hopefully as quickly as you can. So we mentioned on last week's webinar that you are responsible for getting yourself fingerprinted and returning the fingerprint cards to VISTA headquarters so we can run a background check. So I'm going to talk about how to do that if you haven't already. So first of all, your supervisor should have a fingerprint kit, just an envelope that it contains some important pieces of information for you. Specifically, it has 2 fingerprint cards, a criminal history disclosure form, as well as instructions for completing these materials. In your fingerprint kit, you should also have a return UPS label from your supervisor so that you can ship your fingerprints back to headquarters when you have them completed. As you know, Eric and I've shared verbally, and I'm sure you've seen this in the written materials, you are individually responsible for getting fingerprinted and getting those fingerprints back to headquarters. You can do that by going to a local police station, a sheriff's department, or other fingerprinting location, and be sure to bring those hard copy fingerprint cards with you. Your prints have to be submitted on one of those hard copy cards. Unfortunately, we cannot accept electronic submissions or fingerprint reports at this time. We need the actual inked fingerprints on those hard copy cards. To help you complete this task, VISTA provides a $25 fingerprinting subsidy that will be included in your first living allowance payment. As you know, you've got 30 days to complete your fingerprints and get them submitted, but we really want to encourage you to get it done as quickly as you can. Just take this one thing off your to-do list as soon as you can get it done. Your deadline, based on your start date to get your fingerprints to VISTA headquarters, is Wednesday, June 12th. And as a reminder, failure to get this done could result in a suspension of your service where you could be put on hold or you could be terminated. So we obviously don't want that to happen. We hope you have plenty of lead time and are able to complete this task pretty quickly and easily. If for some reason your supervisor doesn't have the fingerprint kits or the shipping label that I mentioned, please have him or her contact the CNCS state office immediately. The state office works with the supervisors to get this taken care of, so they'll be able to help you and your supervisor. All right, so the other part of the process, the criminal history background check process, is to compare the results that VISTA receives from your fingerprint check, to compare those with what you've disclosed on your AmeriCorps VISTA application. So you may recall, it could have been a while ago, but you may recall that when you applied, you were asked if you'd ever been convicted of a crime. It's possible that when you completed that paperwork, that form in the My AmeriCorps portal a while back, you didn't disclose everything that applies to you. Perhaps you thought it wasn't relevant, or that the conviction didn't apply to your service, or it was so long ago, or perhaps you have a conviction that occurred when you were a minor and then it was expunged. So lots of reasons why you may not have disclosed everything that you should disclose on your AmeriCorps application. So if for some reason you left something off, you're going to need to fill out the member disclosure form that's included in your member fingerprint kit. It's included in there along with those hard copy fingerprint cards I mentioned and the return label for UPS. So when the results and the report come back from your fingerprints, as I said, we'll compare what we see with what you've disclosed on your application, as well as what you disclosed on this form that's now part of your fingerprint kit. If everything lines up, you won't hear back from VISTA at all. It is likely, often the case, that a minor offense that it doesn't have any relation to your assignment is generally not going to bar you from service. It's not going to cause you any sort of problems. If for some reason your background check report does show a conviction that you have not yet disclosed, this will require extensive follow-up from VISTA, from the state office, and with your sponsor. Again, it could be grounds to suspend you, to put your service on hold, or even terminate you. So just as the fingerprinting, getting that task done, we want that to be quick and easy for you. We also want your disclosure of anything that you need to disclose to be quick and easy. So please just use that criminal history questionnaire form if you need it, and be sure to share really anything at all that you think is going to be relevant for this process. All right, so from the fingerprinting to the criminal history check disclosure, on to something else, and that is VISTA gear. So many folks, I think on last week's webinar, a number of folks were asking, when do I get my swag? When do I get my VISTA stuff so that I can show that I'm part of the program? And you guys hopefully know and will know that one of the great things about being part of AmeriCorps VISTA is showing off your VISTA pride. As Eric and I have said, the raising your hand and signing up to do a year of VISTA service is an extraordinary contribution and shows extraordinary dedication, and you should absolutely strut that around your community. We want you to be proud of it and show it off. It is true also when you're wearing your VISTA gear, you never know who you can make a connection with, or what type of business you might come into contact with, who could really be a great partner for you on your project. So on the slide in front of you, you can see some of the recommendations we have for how you can show your VISTA pride. You can add the VISTA logo to your business cards and your email signature. You can decorate your space with a VISTA sign or some other VISTA gear. You can share photos that you take at your project and as part of your VISTA service, photos along with stories on social media. And you will be able to order this gear in just a little bit. There are more instructions coming for you. I do want to note, while we're looking at this, the adding a VISTA logo to your business cards and email signature, if you haven't already, you can find all of the official AmeriCorps VISTA logos on the CNCS website, and that's nationalservice.gov. So if that hasn't come to your attention yet, please definitely check out that resource. So in order to get your gear, you're going to get an email with instructions on how to order all of this free gear. Yep, I said free, which is awesome. You can order a VISTA polo shirt, a lapel pin, a tote bag, a t-shirt, a water bottle, and a journal. So you're going to get an email directly with instructions on how to order that within the next 2 weeks. So definitely be on the lookout. As I said, you're going to receive those instructions via email, And you will get them once you are officially sworn in and once your electronic oath of service has been submitted to the VISTA Member Support Unit. So that is the VISTA gear, I think, is your reward for having run all of the gauntlet of paperwork that you've had to do or that you will have to do in order to enroll in the program. So once your oath is submitted, you'll get the instructions, so stay tuned for that.
We know throughout your year there's other types of support that you might need or desire, so let's recap some of the many sources that you can access. You already know about the My AmeriCorps website and the VISTA campus, and what you see on the screen is a graphic reminder of the list of resources that's on the starting VISTA page of the VISTA campus, and you can also look in the handouts and files to download the helpful links document, which gives you a link to this AmeriCorps VISTA resources and contacts page as well. Because you might have questions about sick leave or health care benefits, perhaps the living allowance schedule or VISTA policy, this list points you in the right direction. If you do have questions about your benefits, you can also contact the benefits administrator directly. And if you've exhausted all of your other options on the campus, everywhere, and if you still are not sure of the answer, you can then contact the VISTA Member Support Unit through the National Service Hotline, because they're a wonderful group of people that are here to support you throughout your year of service. But what's ahead for you as you get into your VISTA service? We know today's your first day, but what's happening over the next couple of weeks? There are 7 elements of what we call early service coursework that we ask all VISTA members to complete. They are self-directed and intended to help you prepare for success, and they are considered part of your VISTA service. Don't feel like you have to do them at home because these are part of your VISTA service. First is a guide to help you make the most of your on-site orientation and training, which is a training that your supervisor should be providing you this week. Sometimes it takes 2 weeks, but really to orient you to your VISTA service site. Next, the minute intro exercise helps you think about and develop your elevator pitch so that you can clearly and succinctly explain to others who you are and what you're doing as a VISTA member. The resource that's on the Theories of Change looks at various ideas about what causes poverty and theories on how to reduce or eliminate it. And I will say it's actually quite an interactive and cool tool, so you'll be excited to look at that. There's also a worksheet to help you unpack your VISTA assignment description and use it as the foundation for your work plan for the year. There's a tutorial on how to understand the community you are serving by looking at demographic data and research in addition to whatever other information your supervisor provides you about your site and the community. And there's a video with Dr. Stephen Pimpere that shares 13 lessons about poverty that came out of the VISTA program. The worksheets and resources do dovetail very nicely with your on-site orientation and training, and they can provide structure for the first few meetings with your supervisor. We're not going to collect your worksheets because they're there for your own benefit, but we do hope that you'll use them as you start and continue your year of service. And looking a little bit further ahead, the VISTA program offers an in-service training, or IST, and that's specifically to members that are fairly early in their service terms, typically between months 2 through 5 of service. The IST addresses common training needs among VISTA members. It provides an environment for VISTA members to discuss their projects, ask questions in person, and it offers a forum for VISTAs to connect with their peers, which we know a lot of people have been excited about and talking about. At this point in their service, participants should be able to identify what specifically they need for training, and they'll be able to apply knowledge from their IST during the remainder of their term of service. These trainings are optional to members, and they're not required. There are 4 core training modules and an additional 6 elective training modules developed by CNCS that occur at the in-service training. You will be notified of an IST opportunity based on your geographic area via email, so be sure to keep your email address up to date in your My AmeriCorps portal. And supervisor approval is required to attend. So as you look at your VISTA assignment description with your supervisor, undertake initial activities, write down questions you have, and really think about the training and support that you need, you can begin thinking about all of the things that you need to support you and benefit you at the in-service training.
Great, thank you. So we're going to go over just a few more key decisions and actions that you'll need to complete today if you haven't already, as well as in the next couple of weeks. So the first items relate to your VISTA benefits. And you guys know on last week's webinar, Eric and I went through these benefits in some detail, and you have a lot of information on the campus to show you. But I just want to do a quick check on some of these things now since they're so time sensitive. First is your direct deposit. As we mentioned last week, the details for your direct deposit have to be super completely correct in order for you to receive your first living allowance payment on time. Any small mistake can result in a 2-week delay. So as we indicated, please double, triple check that information in the My AmeriCorps portal. As you guys know, your first living allowance pay date is coming up on May 31st. For those of you who are being paid directly from VISTA, if you are being directly paid by your sponsor, then your schedule may vary. So you definitely want to check that out with your supervisor if you haven't already. Next up is your end of service award. You know that there are two options. There's the option to receive a cash stipend or to receive the Siegel Education Award at the end of your service term. If you chose the cash stipend, today is the last day to change your selection. So that's a critical hard deadline for you. If you've selected the cash stipend in the portal, you don't make any changes today, tomorrow, the cash stipend is going to be your benefit, and that's what you'll receive. However, if you chose the Education Award in the portal, you will have up to 10 months to change your mind, to actually change that selection. Next up, just want to touch base quickly on healthcare. As you know, you're eligible for one of the benefits that VISTA offers, and which one will depend on whether you already have health insurance, or whether or not you came into the VISTA program with health insurance coverage already. If you have insurance, then you can enroll in the healthcare allowance, which reimburses your out-of-pocket costs. If you don't have insurance, then you can enroll in the health benefit plan. And again, in about a week to 10 days from now, you'll receive an email from the Health Benefit Plan Administrator, IMG, with instructions on how to enroll. So again, just another thing for you to be looking out for in your email box. And as I mentioned, the VISTA campus has much more written information on these benefits if you need to see them, to look up for more details. All right, more action items. I think Eric and I have talked about these, but we're just going to quickly remind you. As we've noted, we hope that you already have, but we encourage you to do this right away if you haven't, to set up a standing or recurring meeting with your supervisor. So once a week, you and your supervisor take 30 minutes at a minimum to help get you oriented and help get you going on your project. As Eric just talked through, there are a number of things to complete for your early service coursework. We've talked with you about getting fingerprinted and really hope that you'll do that quickly this week. And then, as I noted, you are going to receive instructions on how to order your VISTA gear in the next couple of weeks as well. So lots of good stuff to look for in your email inbox there.
So now we're at the point where we're going to discuss the very important and very exciting Oath of VISTA Service. The Oath of Service is a required and an important step in you becoming a VISTA member. Because of the importance of this topic, we're going to pause the chat at this time, because we will be posting instructions in the chat regarding how you complete and submit the electronic oath. Of course, we'll also mention them verbally and you'll see them on the screen, but we do want to make sure that everyone sees the information that we're sharing. Once we're done with the oath, we will reopen the chat back up to comments. However, if you do have any questions at this time as we go through the instructions, you can type them in the Q&A panel, and our team will answer them as soon as we can, or we will hold them for the end of the webinar.
All right, so you are almost ready to take the official oath of VISTA service. Before we do that actual oath giving, I just want to talk through a few instructions for filling out the electronic oath form. This is, I think, good for you to know, breaking news. The electronic oath has never been used before. You are the first class, the first cohort of VISTAs who will be doing it, and we are very excited to have the form be available to you in this format. So, first of all, once we conclude this webinar today, and once we log off, you will receive an automated email. So the email address that we have for you in the portal is going to come to you and let you know that your electronic oath form has been unlocked, right? So the process will be for you to finish this webinar, boom, you log off, boom, the email comes to you, and then you go into the portal. You'll need to log in to complete and submit the electronic oath form today. Whether you see that email or not, so please, 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 don't sit and wait for your email only. Within 15 minutes of today's webinar, please log in to the MyAmericorps portal because you should see that the oath form is active and available for you. So in the next slide, I'm going to talk through some specific instructions for filling out the oath. I want to say in advance, we know these seem really obvious, much like the note regarding making sure your direct deposit is correct, but the importance of getting these details right cannot be overstated. And it's really, with so much going on, it's not surprising that sometimes folks make mistakes. So we're going to ask you to pay very close attention to the next screen. If you need to, grab a photo of the screen on your computer, from your phone, write down the instructions, whatever you need to do for yourself to make sure that you get these instructions. Again, we want to make sure that you are able to complete the oath correctly online. If for some reason there's a delay, just as with everything else we've talked about, it could delay you getting enrolled, it could delay you receiving your living allowance on time, etc. So we definitely don't want you to have any delays. All right, so here we go. Please pay very close attention as we go through the instructions for the oath form that you're going to see in just a little bit. All right. So the instructions are these. So for the date of your first day of service to your project site, you will enter today's date, May 13th, 2019. For the name of the CNCS official who administered and witnessed the oath, you're going to type in Eric Powell, our fearless leader for today. Please notice that Eric has a second C in his first name. I think that's often something folks don't catch when they first look at it. In the electronic signature field, you're going to type your full legal name. That's the same name that you used in your AmeriCorps application, and the name that's on file for you in the myamericorps.gov portal. You're going to check the box under electronic signature to verify that this is your legal official signature on the electronic oath form, and then you're going to click submit. So that is super exciting. All right. As I mentioned, it's critical that you get this correct and that you get the oath form submitted today. So please just be ready as soon as we log off our webinar to take those actions.
Now that the logistics are out of the way, let's consider the oath that you're about to take, because you should not take it lightly. This is the same oath taken by all federal employees up to and including the Vice President. The President's oath is slightly different. But in the oath, it does include the phrase, to defend the Constitution of the United States. In this example, defending is not a call to arms. For some, in some positions, it might be, but for most of us, defense of the Constitution may be just the opposite of using arms, because we're pledging to defend the document that contains our civil rights. The oath also includes the phrase, against all enemies. Enemies in the context of VISTA is poverty, as we're trying to alleviate it. Okay, two more things about the oath so you know. First, you may replace the word swear with the word affirm, if you so choose. You also may omit the phrase, so help me God, at the end of the oath, if you so choose. I do want to quickly recognize that since we're all in different locations around the country, as we saw in the VISTA map earlier, scattered in so many sites and so many locations, we unfortunately do not have the benefit of hearing each other's voices as we recite this. But it's pretty cool to know that you're taking the oath along with almost 200 fellow VISTA members doing the same thing at the same time across America. It may seem awkward to recite the oath aloud when you're alone in a room by yourself, or maybe you have a supervisor or someone else in the room with you, but really you're taking the oath for yourself, so you want to do it for you and make it count. So, with that, please raise your right hand and recite the oath aloud along with me. I do so solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So help me God.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric, for reciting that oath. And yay, congratulations to everyone around the country. You are now officially, it is for reals, you're a VISTA member. Congratulations on joining your cohorts, your colleagues on the line with us today, joining our VISTA staff, as well as your AmeriCorps colleagues around the country who are currently serving. So in order for, as we noted, in order to make this completely official and get you rolling with your living allowance and other benefits, there's some important next steps. So as I mentioned and Eric mentioned a moment ago, the VISTA Member Support Unit is going to unlock this oath form, so you can see it on the slide in front of you, and you will be able, you'll get an automated email letting you know it's unlocked, and you can also go into the portal in 15 minutes when we wrap up to see this for yourself. The form will be available on your My AmeriCorps page, and if you can, please hold on. We have a little more information for you on today's webinar, so don't log off yet. We just have a few more minutes, and then we'll get you rolling on the portal and the electronic oath. So as I said, you're going to find this on the left side of your screen. You can see it highlighted for you right now. And you're going to get the oath when you click on this. You can see the fields on the right side are the same ones that we just shared with you a moment ago. So you'll insert that information and then just go ahead and complete that form by the close of business today. It should take you seconds, we're hoping. It should be a very, very quick process to get that done. All right, and then here are the details again, just to let you know what you are supposed to write and where on the electronic oath form. So you've got today's date, again, Eric with 2 C's in his first name. You're going to click on the electronic signature, and then you're going to get your oath submitted by close of business by 5 p.m. Eastern today. All right, so as I said, I hope it's quick and easy. You will not receive a response once you do click that submit button and get your oath in. However, you'll be able to see that you've submitted it on the portal. And if for some reason the submission didn't work, it didn't go according to our technical plans, the VMSU or the Member Support Unit will absolutely contact you if we have not received or do not receive your electronic oath. So definitely be on the lookout if you get anything from the, again, VMSU, the VISTA Member Support Unit, that they could be needing to clear something up with you about the oath. So great, those are the details. You guys, again, thank you very much for listening to them. And Eric is going to move us on down our agenda.
Thank you, Barbara. Those instructions were on point, and hopefully all the VISTAs will get it done successfully and on time. And as we continue to the very near end of the webinar, we want you to know that we had a great time talking with you. We hope you did too. So we would love to hear your feedback, just like we did in the last webinar. Please give us ideas on how we can improve it for future VISTA members, if there's other thoughts you have, because we really do care about your feedback now and throughout your year of service on future webinars. And we want to hear what you thought, because we do use your input and feedback to improve future webinars and trainings that we do in the VISTA program. It's a brief survey. You'll be able to click on the link that Kim posted in the chat, and it shouldn't take you very long to complete that. And again, to access the link, just quickly highlight or select the link in the survey link pod as well, then click Browse To, and it should automatically bring you to the survey. While you contribute your feedback in the survey, we will take some of your questions. Again, as a reminder, we may not be able to answer all the questions, but we do have about 10 or 12 minutes to answer a couple of questions. You do have 2 ways to ask questions. You can post your questions in the Q&A pod, sending the question to all presenters. And you may also ask a question verbally. We'll invite our operators, Steve and Kim, to provide instructions how to ask a question by phone.
Thank you, Eric. If you dialed into the webinar or had Adobe Connect call you back, you can ask questions using your phone. To ask questions over the phone line, press *# and you will be placed into the queue. When it is your turn to ask a question, you will hear the prompt, "Go ahead, caller." Then you may proceed with your questions. Once again, to ask a question over the phone line, press *# to be placed in the queue. Thank you. Back to you, Eric.
Thank you, Steve. I see a couple questions coming in, but two questions that came in earlier, and I'll answer them fairly quickly, were around VISTA's time and VISTA timesheets. The question was, how many hours / what are the hours that VISTA members serve? And following that is, how do we record our time with our supervisor? So the first question about how many hours do VISTA serve, as you know, it's a 365-day position, but VISTAs do serve full-time, which according to the VISTA program is 35 to 40 hours a week. If by any chance you're serving less than 35 hours, let your supervisor and your CNCF state office know, because it should be at least 35 hours. And the other part of the question was in terms of what your actual hours are. Some VISTAs serve 9 to 5, some are 8 to 4. The specific hours are dependent upon your supervisor and your organization. So today, actually, I would encourage you as you finish out this webinar to write down additional questions for your supervisor, such as what time am I supposed to come in on a regular basis, what time do I leave, is there a lunch break, what time is that, things like that. They'll be able to answer those specific questions, as well as the second question around timesheets. So I won't go into detail about this, but the VISTA member handbook does provide specific details about your 10 days of personal leave and 10 days of sick leave and when it can be used and when it cannot be used. But in terms of a specific timesheet, it's up to you and your supervisor to manage your time specifically. There's no official timesheet or timesheet system from the VISTA program. Each organization has their own way of doing it. So again, just write that down as a question for your supervisor in terms of how they want you to track your time and put in your leave requests so that they have them documented. Barbara, as I scroll through, what other questions do you see?
Yeah, thanks, Eric. I saw a couple of questions regarding the criminal history disclosure form. A couple of folks asked, I think, if they have traffic violations or other minor offenses, if they should include those on the form. And I mean, I think my answer is include absolutely anything that you think of. It doesn't hurt you at all to disclose information, but the concern of leaving something off could actually hurt you, right? I mean, Eric, I don't know if you have a different take on that.
Nope, that's exactly correct. Very good answer.
There's also a question, yeah, more is less, right? Oversharing is our friend in this situation. There were a couple of questions about knowing how people know when they will, if they've completed all of their required pre-service coursework and the forms, if they get some sort of completion or yay, you're done from the portal. And I know for typically in this circumstance, no news is good news, right? We will contact you. You'll get a notification via email from the VISTA Member Support Unit if something is missing or if there are errors. But you will not get an affirmative completion message when you've done everything. Does that sound right, Eric?
Yes, that is correct. You would have gotten an email from Charles in the past couple of days if you were missing something. And if you're still missing something, he'll be emailing you today to remind you that it must be complete in order for you to officially become a VISTA member as well. But if you don't hear anything, you're good to go. Just don't forget to submit your oath. And actually, with that, before I go to the one caller on the phone, speaking of the oath, there was a lot of questions coming in about that. We know that you can see the oath now, but you cannot click on it yet because, as we mentioned, in a few minutes we'll be officially done with the webinar. Then our team will actually go in and officially unlock the oath. So right now all you can do is see it on your screen, but if you could wait 5 or 10 more minutes after the webinar is over, you'll be able to actually fill out the information and submit it and be all set. Steve, I believe you said there's one caller in queue, so we'll take that caller and then we'll finish out with a few more questions in the Q&A.
Yes, Eric, we have one caller ready for a question.
Outside employment? Outside employment?
Yes. So Thank you for that question. Outside employment is one of the benefits of the VISTA program. And the easy answer for the details, but I'll really quickly go over them, is if you go to vistacampus.gov, which is the website, and in the search field, just type in outside employment. There are specific details around the permissibility of outside employment, and there's a form that you have to fill out and submit it to your supervisor outlining what your outside employment is, what the hours are, because you have to make sure that it's outside employment that does not conflict with your VISTA service. VISTA service must come first, but it is permissible.
You mail it to him?
Well, you fill it out online, and then you can email it to your supervisor electronically.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara, I see a couple of other questions coming in the Q&A. I know we have about 5 minutes or so left. Do you see any that seem pressing that we haven't answered yet?
Eric, I don't see any that are burning. I mean, lots of, I think, folks just trying to get their mind around what to do at their site and what not to do. But I think the big stuff we've answered already, and it's worth. I think we're in good shape.
Okay, and I'll finish that by saying I know there were a few other benefits questions that came in. We're not going to answer those in detail because some of them seem very specific and about personal situations, and I would direct you, especially if it's healthcare, contact our provider, International Medical Group. They're the experts. But any other benefits questions, remember, first check the VISTA campus in the benefits section. If it's not there, you can check the VISTA campus under the VISTA member handbook. And then if you still can't find your answer, which should be very few, but you can contact the VISTA member support unit through the National Service Hotline. So not seeing too many other new questions coming in, I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and move to the next slide. Everyone does have my email, and I saw a few questions that came in specifically to my email, so I will answer those separately. But we're going to go ahead and wrap up the session now. But before we depart, we do want to leave you with another quote from President Lyndon Johnson. On your idealism and on your success rests much of our hope for the final elimination of poverty in our American life. Thank you all for your participation. We're so excited on behalf of myself, Barbara, the entire AmeriCorps VISTA program. We're excited to welcome you as the newest class of AmeriCorps VISTA members. We wish you much success, enjoyment, making strides in your community